Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started here in just one moment. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6:01, and we're going to start the Topanga Canyon and Sunset Mesa virtual evacuation drill. Good evening. Welcome to this virtual evacuation drill for the unincorporated areas of Topanga Canyon and Sunset Mesa. My name is Jean O'Donnell. I'm with the Los Angeles County Office of Emergency Management. This exercise is very important for those who live in the wildland urban interface and very high fire hazard severity zone, who know that wildfires and evacuations will happen, but not when. Even if you have been through many evacuations before, there's always more to learn and understand about how we work together to ensure public safety. This drill would not be possible without a team of dedicated community volunteers and the strength and support of Supervisor Kuehl and her staff. And I'd like to take a moment there and acknowledge that the design team for this exercise has included the Topanga Coalition for Emergency Preparedness, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, the California Highway Patrol, the Los Angeles County Department of Animal Care and Control, and also the Southern California Edison. So thank you once again for being here today, and please let us know at the end how if you learned something from this adventure. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank some of the elected officials who've supported our efforts here, including Senator Stern, who will be on in a few moments to say hello and join the team. So we'll go ahead and start with a map of the zone of the area that we're talking about. So the evacuation zone map for Topanga Canyon and Sunset Mesa has altered a bit from the one that you may have seen previously. And during this drill, we'll be referring to these Topanga's evacuation zones, including Sunset Mesa for the first time, which is now in Zone 10. It's important that you understand what zone you're in and that you understand as we go through this exercise, how the fire will affect you and what the impacts on your area will be. The format for this exercise will include information from public safety agencies describing how they respond to wildfires and make critical decisions throughout. If you have questions, please submit them through the question and answer function, and we will get them after the presentation and at the end of the drill. And do we have our speaker on yet?
Not quite yet. One moment.
Okay. Good moment to take a look at the map and find out where you are. Okay, Megan, let's go ahead and we'll start on the first, and then we'll pause for the acknowledgement when we get there. So for now, we will begin this exercise with Assistant Chief Smith from the Los Angeles County Fire Department. We'll introduce the Maria fire, which started at 5 p.m. This is a drill. Captain Chief Smith.
Well, good afternoon. This is Drew Smith. I'm the Jurisdictional Assistant Fire Chief for the area, and you also have two of your three battalion chiefs with us as well, which is Jurisdictional Battalion Chief Steve Cookus and Rick Lewis. So starting with the Maria fire has started at 5 o'clock this evening, and it has a somewhat of a rapid rate of spread because we're under red flag conditions. Your battalion chiefs and myself as assistant chief are very familiar with the area and the evacuation concerns and the public safety concerns. As the Maria fire started, it was under red flag conditions. And the reason it is named the Maria fire, because we use a geographical landmark, which is off of Santa Maria Road and Mulholland Highway, where is approximate point of origin for this fire under these red flag conditions. And right now we are going to put an evacuation order in place, and that is for zones 1, 2, 3, and 4. And with that being said, zones 1, 2, and 3 are to evacuate north on Topanga Canyon Boulevard to and into Woodland Hills, with zone 4 evacuating south on Topanga Canyon Boulevard to Pacific Coast Highway, then extending southeast on Pacific Coast Highway.
Hi, I'm James Grasso, a director with the Topanga Coalition for Emergency Preparedness, otherwise known as TCEP. TCEP has been actively monitoring the Maria fire and is in contact with the county's incident command post. We are currently staffing our emergency operations center and are monitoring a variety of information sources. We are pushing out the most current and verified information through our social media and website outlets. The most up-to-date information will be pushed out on our Twitter feed and our website's emergency status page. What you are looking at here are examples of Twitter feeds. Thank you.
Now, if we go back to Chief Smith for a report on initial actions for the Maria fire.
Yes, Drew Smith, Assistant Fire Chief, and your Los Angeles County Fire Department has a very robust initial attack response. We have red flag conditions, so that puts us in an augmented staffing where we staff extra helicopters, engine companies, and hand crews and bulldozers. We also are assisted on this wildland fire through the mutual aid system because it's within the mutual threat zone. So we also have a first alarm assignment with the Los Angeles City Fire Department. So you have nearly close to 50 engines with air assets assigned to this fire. We also have our aircraft that is flying, which consists of 4 to 6 rotary wing helicopters, and we also have fixed wing fixed wing air tankers that are assigned, and we also have our super scoopers that are assigned to this fire as well. And the fire is rapidly growing, and it's at 100+ acres at this time. On how evacuations are determined, we look at the path of travel and look at the values at the risk. And that number one value is the life component to that of the residents or anybody that's within an area immediately within the path of a wildland fire. We use geospatial analysis for this in a fusion center to also give that intelligence to the incident command post with aerial observation, to downlink GIS and map capabilities to look at the path of the fire to help determine what evacuation needs are going to be put in place. The projected growth of this fire has led us to that evacuation order of zones 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once again, evacuation warnings are in place for zone 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And zone 10 is east and west, and both of those are in a warning at this time. We also have a unified command component with Los Angeles City Fire Department, with the Lost Hills Sheriff Station, and also CHP and Office of Emergency Management is at the command post.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Now we'd like to go to Deputy Cerveni from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Yes, good evening, all. This is Deputy Cerveni with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Malibu Lost Hills Station. At this point in the emergency, the LASD personnel, the field deputies, will have been dispatched as soon as the fire broke out. In most cases, our deputies will often be the first to be called on a fire emergency as they are in the field actively patrolling in these areas. As we've discussed in the past, the evacuation orders with our colleagues in the fire department. And now that these evacuation orders have been determined, deputies in the field have to make several decisions. The first is getting the evacuation notices to the residents and making our residents aware that there is a potential threat in their area. We will do this by knocking on doors, using our loudspeakers and sirens, and we will be doing this especially in areas where there's low to no cell reception of any kind. in areas and locations where there may be the elderly or the sages or people who may have additional needs to evacuate that may take them a little bit longer. They will hopefully have activation of the networks through Alert LA, WIAs, and other access points. And we will also carry out evacuation orders to assist those who cannot evacuate on their own. We may use many means within our power to reach residents who are in danger and in need to evacuate. We have also called in a mutual aid to assist us with this task. But mutual aid is that Lost Hill Station will make a call out to additional stations in the area as far away as we need, from Lancaster to San Dimas, to send additional units to augment our field force to get more units out there to help get the evacuation orders notified. We will also, in this evacuation area grows, this additional manpower is needed to reach everybody. And in addition, we'll be informing residents of their need to evacuate and be working with our CHP partners, which will include enforcing road closures, directing traffic, and other needs as needed as the situation determines. Thank you all.
Thank you, Deputy Cerveni. Now we go to Captain Ford, who has an update from the California Highway Patrol.
This is Captain Dennis Ford with West Valley CHP, and CHP was also dispatched immediately to this fire. We're making sure that emergency vehicles can get to the scene safely. We're also enforcing road closures and directing the flow of traffic for evacuating vehicles. The intersections of Topanga Canyon Boulevard and PCH is particular of importance to us. We want to ensure that the emergency vehicles could get in and that people can get out. So there's lanes moving in both directions. And if necessary, we will consider making all lanes of PCH southbound to evacuate Topanga. CHP is also committed to getting as much any evacuation efforts that we can and assisting the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department with that. And the question has come up sometimes, why do we need to block access to Topanga Canyon Boulevard completely? And the reasoning behind it. We need to keep one lane open for emergency vehicles and firefighting efforts. We also need one lane open to have cars evacuate out of Topanga. We must remove all chance of someone breaking down or blocking an emergency lane. And even after the fire is over, there are risks and hazards that you may not be aware of. And making sure that we get people out and having life safety is always our number one priority. Something else that comes up is, if you can see your screen, this is a picture. This photo here is an example of how roadways may be utilized during firefighting efforts. During an incident, it may be unsafe to allow any residents through traffic control points and over roads, even if your zone is not under evacuation orders, especially in Topanga, where there was only one major artery, that being Topanga Canyon Boulevard. One accident can completely derail the firefighting efforts and can completely bring traffic to a standstill. And we can't get people out. We can't get emergency crews in.
Thank you very much. Now, if we can take just a brief pause, and Maria, I believe we have a guest. Maria, Megan.
Yes, 1 second. Okay, I believe Senator Stern is now on.
Senator
Oh,
Stern,
am I the
welcome.
interruption? Oh,
Just a bit.
this is precisely what you do not want an elected official to do, is to interrupt the chain of command during incident command time. So I'll buzz off the screen quickly and just say thank you to everyone at state, county, local level, and especially TSEP and town council and all the folks in the fire safe community. I'll be participating as a resident and citizen tonight, but watching very closely, because the whole state has got our eye on us, and we're going to be hopefully doing more of these kinds of exercises going forward. So consider your guys, you're the tip of the spear here. So thanks for innovating.
Thank you so much. Now we'll get back to the next update for the Maria fire with Chief Smith. This is a drill.
Yes, Drew Smith, Assistant Fire Chief. So we're looking at the time now that our fire is significantly growing. We're at approximately 450 acres and growing with 0% containment. We have approximately 5,000 structures that are threatened. We are now going to put into place the evacuation zones 5, 6, and 7, which is under evacuation order. Zone 5 is to evacuate north on Topanga Canyon to Woodland Hills. Zone 6 and 7 are to evacuate south on Topanga Canyon to Pacific Coast Highway, extending to the southeast towards Santa Monica. Evacuation warnings exist still in zones 8, 9, and 10, and 10 is divided into east and west.
Thank you, Chief Smith. And we go back to TSEP for an update on what we're hearing on the media.
James Grasso with TSEP. As the fire continues to grow, TSEP is continuing to gather information from the Incident Command Post, law enforcement, SC Edison and other utilities, and the Los Angeles Office of Emergency Management, and a variety of other sources. Due to the fast-moving nature of this fire, we are sending a TSEP representative to the Incident Command Post and will continue to push out information through social media, our staffed hotline, the FRS Channel 15 top of the hour report, on our website's emergency status page. The type of tweets you are seeing here are examples of what comes from TSEP and public safety agencies and what you should be signed up for and looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have an update from LA County Animal Care and Control, Sergeant Maradiaga.
Good evening, everyone. This is Sergeant Paul Maradiaga with Los Angeles County Animal Care Control. This is the drill. Please take this time to execute your animal evacuation plan with the necessary supplies. We strongly recommend you leave early. If you do not have a designated evacuation area, you may transport your large animals to the Pierce College Equestrian Center. The main entrance is located near the intersection of Victory Boulevard and Dos Soto Avenue in the city of Woodland Hills. If you are unable to transport your animals to the sheltering sites, you can make a request for service by contacting our communications center at 818-991-0071 or visiting our website at animalcare.lacounty.gov. Our field units will be deployed to assist for these evacuations. Once you arrive to the Pierce College, please check in with our officer in charge and our ERT volunteer members. They will collect your information and guide you through where to secure your animals. If the fire is rapidly moving, you're unable to evacuate your large animals, do not release your animals onto the main road. Loose horses and other livestock can pose a life-threatening danger to themselves, our first responders, and the public. The best option would be to have your animals sheltered in place. Confirm that your perimeter fencing is secure. Remove all your large animals from barns and secure the doors. Animals are resilient. If there's an open area within the property, they will make all efforts to evade the fire. We strongly recommend for you to provide some type of ID of your animals, such as leather halters with your contact information. If your horse is microchipped, confirm that that information is current. By implementing these small details, you will have a better chance to reunite with your animals. With respect to your small animals, you may transport your pets to the Agora Animal Care Center. Once you arrive, our staff will guide you through the intake process. If your animals has a medical condition, please inform the team. If you're unable to evacuate your animals, please communicate with your neighbors or contact our department directly. If you have a pre-designated evacuation area for your pets, remember to bring your animal disaster kit. This is only a drill.
Thank you, Sergeant. Next up is a report from Dave Ford from Southern California Edison.
This is Dave Ford, ARAP reporting for duty. We have been notified by Los Angeles County Fire Department that Maria Fire has spread over into an area that has impacted to Sylvia and the Cheney Circuit, which is impacting over 1,200 customers. We've been asked by the LA County Fire Department to de-energize our circuits at this time to protect employees from the LA County Fire Department as they go in and try to respond to the spread of the fire. We've also been asked by LA County Fire Department and local agencies to keep shelters energized during this process as the evacuation measures have been put in place, and that we will have standby generation available should these circuits be de-energized at those specific locations that have been identified for shelters. We also have dispatched our community research vehicles to these shelters for support of resources of blankets, water, and battery charging facilities, battery charging equipment. That is all I have to report at this time.
Thank you, Dave. And we have another Maria Fire update from Chief Smith with LA County Fire. This is a drill.
Yes, once again, Drew Smith, Assistant Fire Chief. So the Maria Fire is still rapidly growing under the red flag conditions. We're putting all zones into an order. So the additional zones go from 1 to 10, east and west on 10. And every zone that is left to be evacuated is to travel south on Topanga Canyon Boulevard towards Pacific Coast Highway towards Santa Monica, and that the remaining zones are zone 8, 9, and 10. We've asked for a greater alarm fire. We have put in a request for 20 additional strike teams of engine in the firefighting effort. Our fixed wing aircraft have been shut down because we have lost daylight. Our fixed wing aircraft do not fly at night. However, our helicopters do. So we actively have 8 helicopters assigned with over 200 engines assigned. And we have additional resources that we have called in to combat this fire.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Now we go back to James Grasso from TSEP.
James Grasso with TSEP. Due to the continued extreme fire behavior, the Sheriff's Department, via the Alert LA County notification system, is reporting all Topanga zones are now under evacuation order. Due to the de-energization of parts of Topanga, residents have lost power. That have lost power can turn on their car radio and tune in to KNX 1070 AM, which is a reliable source for emergency information. Also, residents with FRS radios can turn to channel 15 to listen to the TSEP top of the hour report. Following the top of the hour report, residents can then switch to the local assigned FRS channels to communicate with their nearby neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point in the Maria Fire, Public Safety has established an incident command post. When managing small fires, decisions are made by initial responders on scene. As more support and resources are needed, an incident command post, or an ICP, is established in a nearby location. Fire, law, emergency management, animal care, public works, Southern California Edison, the Red Cross, and other cooperating agencies will report to the ICP and coordinate efforts to respond to the fire. Each agency is trained in the incident command system, which is a standardized organizational framework used throughout California and the nation. At a large fire, there are usually hundreds of people at the ICP organized into predetermined sections, branches, and units. The incident commander is the final authority and decision maker on how to fight the fire and manage resources. Another important part of the ICP is the public information officer, who serves as the conduit for all incident information to the media and the public. Any information the PIO puts out must be approved by the incident commander, and the PIO is responsible for incident status updates like the ones we have been receiving in this exercise. For more information on how fires are managed, let's go to Deputy Cerveni from the LA County Sheriff's Department.
Well, this is Deputy Cerveny, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Malibu Lost Hill Station. At this point in the operation, on a large and complex instance like the one we are experiencing currently, we will enter what's called a unified command. This means that multiple agencies are going to be involved at a central command post location, and a representative from each major agency, including Los Angeles County Fire Department, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, California Highway Patrol, and many others will be at this location, acting as a single entity. Every major decision made during this incident will come directly from our unified command. These decisions will include everything from evacuations, road closures, and repopulation. Life safety is the most important factor in any decision made during this time. This is a drill. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. And now we'll move to the 9 p.m. Maria Fire update from Chief Smith.
Yes, Drew Smith, Assistant 7, Los Angeles County Fire Department. So our fire is now over 3,000 acres. We have now reported, though, we do have 8% containment, and that started near the point of origin, which was Mulholland and Santa Maria Road. So our crews are making good progress, is what we call the heal the fire. We know that we have a significant amount of values at risk, and those values at risk are infrastructure and structures threatened along down the path of the fire burning towards the ocean. We have approximately 300 engines assigned to the fire, with 8 helicopters continuing to work this fire, and our population, people combating this fire, is in excess of 1,000 people.
Thank you. Now we'll go back to James Grasso from TSEP.
James Grasso with TSEP. TSEP has had to evacuate our emergency operations center, but is now fully operational, working remotely from our mobile command post that is located outside Topanga Canyon. The ember cast you're seeing on screen could be daytime or nighttime, and is representative of what conditions might be like inside Topanga. This ember cast constantly creates new fires, and those spot fires can erupt anywhere, including all around you. Visibility can become extremely limited, air quality can degrade rapidly, lack of oxygen can cause vehicles to stall, smoke can become deadly. This is not a place to be during these types of conditions, and this is why it's so important to evacuate as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. In 2020, California revised evacuation terminology, and we'll have more on this from Megan Courier with LA County Fire.
Evening, I'm Megan Courier. I'm the Community Services Liaison for Division 7 of the LA County Fire Department. Unified Command has issued your evacuation orders and your evacuation warnings during this incident, according to the standard statewide evacuation terminology, which was developed by the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, aka Cal OES. This terminology has been adopted by public safety agencies across California so that we all speak the same language during incidents. Older language will not be used moving forward, so please become familiar with these terms and look out for them during an incident. If an evacuation order is called, there's an immediate threat to life. It's a lawful order to leave now, and the area is then closed to public access. An evacuation warning is called if there's a potential threat to life or property. Anyone who requires extra time to evacuate, and those who have pets or livestock should leave when evacuation warning is called. Shelter in place means you should go inside and shut and lock all doors and windows. You should be prepared to self-sustain until further notice or further direction from emergency personnel. Evacuation orders lifted is the formal announcement of lifting evacuations in an area that's currently under evacuation. And in terms of road closures, a hard closure indicates that the road is closed to all traffic except for fire and law enforcement only. In a soft closure, the road is closed to all traffic except for fire, law, and critical incident resources such as Caltrans, utilities, or others needed to repair the roads or the infrastructure. And a resident-only closure is a soft closure that also allows entry to residents and government agencies that are assisting with the recovery.
Thank you, Megan. And now we have another update from Chief Smith with Los Angeles County Fire.
Yes, Drew Smith, Los Angeles County Fire Assistant Fire Chief. I'd like to talk about the concept of shelter in place and what does it mean, and will I be asked to do it? The fire department's stance and priority is evacuations and evacuations early. If this is an imminent threat to you because of the travel of a fire and you don't have time to evacuate, a shelter in place may be your safest option rather than being on the road system where you're impacted by fire, impacted by smoke, or impacted by limited visibility. Once again, the Los Angeles County Fire Department stance is we want you to evacuate early. However, if there's those times that we are going to keep people in a shelter in place type of scenario, our focus is to send engine companies towards those structures where we know that the people are shelter in place to help with the life protection of those people. This is in the most extreme event when time is not on your side to evacuate. However, once again, our stance is to evacuate early.
Thank you, Chief, Assistant Chief, and we'll move into the next update for the Maria fire. This is a drill.
Yes, with the Maria fire, Drew Smith, once again, Los Angeles County Fire Department. Our fire is now over 5,500 acres. We're putting it at 10% containment, and that's towards the heel of the fire. We have very, very aggressive fire that is moving towards the ocean, and spot fires are occurring throughout. We have unknown amount of structure damage or structures destroyed at this time. We're still seeing that we do have evacuations that are taking place under the orders. We have 8 helicopters that are assigned, and we are nearing 400 engines that are combating this fire.
Thank you. If we can go to James with Grasso at TSEP, please.
James Grasso here with the Topanga Coalition for Emergency Preparedness. As the wind-driven fire advances through Topanga, TSEP has just finished a top-of-the-hour report. We continue to push out additional fire incident updates, including conditions for receiving animals at Pierce College and the Agora Small Animal Shelter, as well as the status of evacuation centers at Taft and Pali High Schools. The disaster radio team, a group of licensed ham radio operators within TSEP, focuses on communications during emergencies and provides Red Cross damage assessment after the fire passes through. They are responsible for sending out the top of the hour report on FRS channel 15. Thank you.
For more information on evacuations from Deputy Cervini with the Los Angeles County Fire Department. I'm sorry, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
This is Deputy Cervini, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Malibu Lost Hill Station. Big question is, if you do not evacuate, it does make our jobs harder, and this is a fact. If you choose not to evacuate, you are putting your life, your family's life, your loved one's life, even your pet's life, including those of first responders' lives at risk. A lot of people think that they're fine to stay behind until they get overwhelmed by the conditions and then call 911 for help. This distracts heavily from our firefighting efforts. If firefighters need or deputies need to come and rescue you, they must stop what they are doing and come to your aid, which takes them away from rescuing or helping others and detracting resources from where they are more sorely needed. Embers from a fire of this magnitude can travel well over a mile ahead of the fire. So even if the fire isn't at your doorstep exactly, the embers can fly ahead and start fires and change the conditions where your home is very rapidly. We have many, many resources, but if there is another fire going on at the same time, we may not even get mutual aid from other departments as they will be busy dealing with other emergencies. Therefore, every resource needs to be used as efficiently as possible for fighting the fire and not rescuing people from those who should have evacuated. Those popularized on the news who stayed behind may have gotten lucky, and that is not the norm, and it is not something that anybody should do. So once you hear those evacuation orders, it is time to go. If you have heard evacuation warnings and need more time with the elderly or someone who needs more help loading, evacuation warning is your sign to get ready and go. And the earlier you evacuate, the better you have to get away safely. Thank you.
For more information on road closures during evacuations, we'll go to Captain Ford with the California Highway Patrol.
Hi, Captain Dennis Ford with West Valley CHP. If anyone in your home will have difficulties evacuating, make sure you give yourself extra time. And please, if you can, leave before your zone is called. If possible, consider staying in another area on high-risk fire days, which are called red flag days, and plan ahead for evacuations. Also, if you need updates on traffic control points, you can get West Valley CHP's Twitter account, and you'll have very regular updates on where the road closures are and where the heaviest traffic is.
Thank you. And now a final update on the Maria fire with Chief Smith from the LA County Fire. This is a drill.
Yes, Drew Smith, Assistant Fire Chief, LA County Fire. So this is our incident update for the Maria fire. And we're at 12,000 acres. We're still putting a 10% containment. We still have a significant amount of structures threatened. We have now, as you well know, have all zones that are in evacuation order, and we have close to 500 engines assigned. And with this, that we look at, our fire has now breached the Pacific Coast Highway at Tuna Canyon. So our fire behavior will change because of that head fire transition change. So we're going to still concentrate on the flanks of that fire. So we're looking at this fire differently and how it's going to spread laterally now since the head fire transition has stopped. But we still have extreme fire conditions out there. So this Maria fire that we set up, you're seeing now the shape file of that. This is something that we've used through our geospatial analysis, our fire behavior analyst within the organization. We know that the story has been told before. And so with the story being told before, we're going to take our best practice from lessons learned and implement evacuations as needed for public safety. This shows the course of the fire, how it'll spread over time. And a fire starting at the point of origin at this point was at Santa Maria Road and Dirt Mulholland. It takes approximately 4.5 to 5.5 hours before a portion of that fire hits the ocean, and then it starts spreading laterally. If you look at the map, you see the contours in there. Think about where the point of origin is, and if you were to pour a cup of water and how it would flow down canyon, down slope to the ocean. That is the primary path that fires take with the wind coming strong out of the northeast under those Santa Ana wind and red flag conditions. 100 years worth of fire history has supported what we know that this fire will do. And so we all need to be prepared to take best practice and action ahead of the fire.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Now to discuss repopulation, we're going to Deputy Cerveny from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Hello again, Deputy Cerveny, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Malibu Lost Hills Station. Now that the fire is out, people want to go home immediately, and that's understandable. However, this is usually not possible following a major fire event like one we've just experienced. It may be days or even weeks before you're allowed to return home safely. This decision to repopulate is taken very, very seriously, and many factors are taken into account and must be agreed upon by the unified command. To meet and evaluate makes the decision tougher at times, and individual deputies and CHP officers at roadblocks get their orders from the command post, and these orders are to be followed by the individuals for everyone's safety. There is dangerous debris covering the roadways, from power lines across the ground to landslides, rocks, all kinds of really dangerous stuff. Plus, the power even may not be back on yet. Opening an area too early can also leave your homes unprotected. During a resident-only reopening, people must be able to present a proof of residence with a current ID showing their physical address. Again, physical address. A Topanga access card may help to expedite re-entry, but this is only if it's been deemed safe to go back in the area. Thank you.
We have more on repopulation with Dave Ford from Southern California Edison.
This is a drill. This is a rep Dave Ford or Southern California Edison. SCE has been cleared by LA County Fire Department to go back into the burn area to make aerial assessments of the damage that have been impacted on our system to the Cheney and Sylvia circuits. SCE also has requested access to a parcel of land for a laydown yard north of Topanga for equipment restoration planning, so that we can begin work on re-energizing our circuit. We also have maintained our presence at the shelters where many customers have been housed, and will maintain our community resource vehicle there for supplies and battery charging of cell phones so they can continue to communicate with their loved ones and families. We will continue to work with the LA County Fire Department, TSEP, and LA County Emergency Operations to ensure that our restoration efforts are in line with the other agencies in coordination throughout this repopulation event.
Thank you, Dave. Now we'll move to Captain Ford with the California Highway Patrol. Oh, Captain Ford, I do believe you're still muted.
Yeah, Captain Ford with CHP. We understand the urgency you feel to get home, and we work hard to get you back. However, life safety is the most important thing. The incident commanders will not open the roads until it is completely safe. Many other agencies such as Public Works and Caltrans would also be involved in making the roads drivable again. There is no standard method or routine for repopulation because every incident is different and presents different risks.
Thank you, Captain. We'll now move to Chief Smith, please.
Yes, Drew Smith, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Assistant Fire Chief. So how do we prepare? Well, your fire department and assisting agencies, being fire, law, Office of Emergency Services, Public Works, utility cooperators, and our local partners in the local community, such as TSEP, your fire agencies meet monthly. The rest of us meet at a minimum quarterly. We have very robust drills throughout the year on what best practice is for public safety. And that, as we know, one of those is wildfire. How do we launch or go into evacuations? How do we roll out this with traffic plans? How are our communications? Where are command post locations pre-identified? We have a significant amount of resources available to us to make us better. We have a lot of lessons learned throughout the years of fighting wildland fires in the Santa Monica Mountains. And we always get the test before we get the lesson. However, we are being proactive, as we always do as your public safety people, to prepare for the worst case scenario. And this is a picture of one of those drills that we did before fire season this year. This is just one of many that we facilitated.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Other efforts to manage fire risk in the Santa Monica Mountains include working with homeless populations. After years of drought and very dry winters, the threat for fires continues to be very high in Los Angeles County. New precautions are needed to reduce risk for all residents living in or near these high-risk zones. For the next few months, while we wait for winter rain, the county is taking some initial steps to protect the lives of both the housed and the unhoused in the Santa Monica Mountains. The Board of Supervisors has asked the LA County Fire Department, with assistance from the LA Homeless Services Authority, to ramp up their efforts to identify people experiencing homelessness who may be living in those areas, to inform them of the danger and the need to move from that area, and link them to services and housing in accordance with best practices, with the goal of relocating them out of very high fire zones. Lieutenant Braden from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is here to speak more on efforts.
Hi, this is Jim Braden with the LA County Sheriff's Department. And I'm the liaison for Malibu, and I'm also the liaison for the county area now also. We were in a meeting last week, and the county's initiated a plan to remove homeless individuals through the canyon areas in the county areas. And we're working along with LA County Fire and along with our host teams from LA County Sheriff's Department, along with LASHA, to find housing for these individuals. This effort has already started. Deputies were out yesterday, and basically passing out fire safety pamphlets, going back to these encampments, everything from coastline back toward the west, back toward the McDonald's, which is in about the 24,000 or 22,000 block of PCH, back into the canyons of Big Rock, back in the canyons of Tuna, the Topanga Rodeo Grounds, up into Topanga Canyon. And the deputies, they're hiking back into the canyons and locating these individuals. And basically that's the start of it. I'm also working with the city of Malibu is going to initiate a similar resolution for the city areas back in these canyons, and the same effort's going to be put forward. This is something that hasn't been done in the past. It's extremely important this year with the drought and also just all the fire conditions that are ripe for massive fires, and it as well as for the citizens' protection, as well as for the homeless people's protection that are back in these canyons.
Thank you, Lieutenant Braden. People living in the Santa Monica Mountains need to be aware of fire risk, especially on red flag days. So we have made sure that we have available to you 3 core publications that have information on preparing for emergencies and evacuations. Ready, Set, Go is specifically designed to guide you on preparing for wildfires. The Emergency Survival Guide is also has much information not only about fires but other disasters, and also the Topanga Survival Emergency Guide, which is specifically developed for residents of Topanga Canyon. Just recently, we did do a distribution, or the supervisor's office did a distribution in Sunset Mesa with the Emergency Survival Guide, and residents in Topanga should know how to get a hold of copies of the Topanga Survival Disaster Guide. Both of these documents are available for download. You only need one or the other. They have quite a bit of the same information in them. So we have something for everyone and some specific information for Topanga Canyon. So feel free, we'll give you the resource in a minute so you can download all of these guides for free. Other residents are also available for residents as they prepare for fires. Here are Chief Cookus from LA County Fire and James Grasso from TSEP to talk about other strategies for reducing risk.
Hi, everyone. Hardening your home and vegetation management, creating that valuable, defensible space. My name is Steve Cookus, and I'm one of your local battalion chiefs. Creating defensible space is a crucial part of preparedness. Part of LA County Fire Department's responsibilities is conducting annual brush inspections. Now, I know we all dread seeing that annual brush notice in the mail, but we do this to ensure you, the homeowner, have taken the precautions to create a defensible space, leaving no major hazards behind. It's up to you to maintain and harden your home for everyone's safety. If your home is hardened, it gives your home a stronger chance to survive a wildfire, which in turn will make you more comfortable, evacuate early, and giving you the opportunity to get to safety before it's too late. And James, you had more to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Chief. I'd like to let you know about a free program to help you harden your home. The RCD, or the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, offers free home evaluations through a home ignition zone evaluation program. This program is available to homeowners in Los Angeles and Ventura County. A home ignition zone evaluation is a review of the vulnerability of your house and landscaping to wildfire and ember ignition. During this 45-minute assessment, a trained evaluator will review defensible space and home hardening principles and make specific recommendations based on the property. Program participants receive a detailed report with the top 5 priorities to address to reduce ignition risk. The service is grant funded and currently provided free of charge. Thank you.
And we have even more preparedness resources for you. A few of them are on this page. The Topanga Coalition for Emergency Preparedness, you've heard James speaking tonight, has many resources for Topanga Canyon and surrounding areas. TopangaSurvival.com is a website where you can download a copy of the survival guide and find out how to get a Topanga access card. Ready LA County has preparedness information, and you can also download the Emergency Survival Guide, the one that was in the middle. Animal Care and Control has information on creating emergency plans for your animals. Southern California Edison has information on circuit maps, medical baseline, PSPS alerts, and wildfire safety. The National Weather Service Los Angeles office has the latest on fire weather and red flag warnings. Which brings us to our coming soon. We are very excited to say that we are working on a program with the National Weather Service using NOAA radios to send out weather alerts for residents who have NOAA weather radios. We'll hear an audio alert when the notices are sent from the county. This system is in the testing zone right now. It is not fully operational, but we should be announcing the capability soon. So for more on alerts and warning systems, we'll go to Megan Courier from LA County Fire.
Megan Courier, Community Services Liaison with LA County Fire Department again. And I want to discuss some ways that you can stay informed and aware during wildfires and other incidents. To be sure that you're notified when an incident occurs, you should sign up for alerts with Alert LA County. And if there's a disaster, an emergency in your area, then Alert LA County can send you text messages, emails, or call you on a landline. You can also download the Pulse Point app, which will notify you when there's when the fire department is dispatched to a vegetation fire in your area. And make sure that you follow LA County Fire Department Division 7 when you download the app to be notified about fires in the Santa Monica Mountains area. During a large, fast-moving fire like the one we just experienced, you're going to see a ton of information on the internet from many different sources, but a lot of that information is going to turn out to be false. So to be sure that you're getting the correct information that's approved by the incident commanders, you need to follow the Twitter accounts that are on screen right now, including TSEP, LA County Fire PIO, LA County Fire Division 7, Lost Hills Sheriff Station, CHP West Valley, Ready LA County, which is OEM, and LA County Department of Animal Care and Control. If you follow these Twitter accounts, you'll get validated updates, and official public agency accounts will send out information directly from the command post. Also, make sure that you always have access to a battery-powered AM radio in case of poor cell reception or power outages. And TSEP always keeps their website updated with the current emergency status and is in contact with fire department and law enforcement officials regularly. Now, speaking of TSEP and the great work that they do, James Grasso is going to let you know about some volunteer opportunities in your community.
James Grasso back again, TSEP. So volunteering in Topanga, we need your help. None of this gets done by itself. We need people to get involved, so please get involved. Topanga has a multitude of organizations that you can volunteer with. Please help us make a difference in your community and volunteer with action-oriented organizations like the Topanga Coalition for Emergency Preparedness, Topanga CERT, Arson Watch, and the Topanga Town Council. These organizations are always looking for talented volunteers, and it's a great way to put your skills to work. Volunteering can be rewarding. To find out about volunteer opportunities, please be sure to respond to the volunteer question in the post-drill survey. Please go visit the post-drill survey site and fill it out. And thank you.
So this is a list
Speaking of.
Speaking of, this is a list of many of the prizes that Topanga Town Council and TSEP, and I'm not sure who else, but I was very impressed at all the prizes that we managed to get you to fill out the survey and give us some feedback on tonight and information that you would like to know.
So thank you for participating in this drill. Before you go, we hope all of you will please use the link that you see here or go to the tsep.org website and follow the survey link to a very important survey that will help us help you in making the process of notifications during disasters like the simulated fire safer and more efficient. To encourage you to do so, anyone who fills out the survey in its entirety will be eligible to receive a battery charging phone stick, which can be picked up starting tomorrow at the Topanga Library. But better yet, if you complete the survey and fill in your contact information, you will be placed into a raffle. The raffle will be drawn on September 1st and be eligible for a variety of very cool emergency products. Some examples of those products are an IQ room air purifier, a car air purifier, an iEvac fire escape hood and cape, a portable solar charger, a one-person 4-week emergency food supply, some really cool fire suppression sticks, the Elements, check those out, a 3-story fire escape ladder, and more. So please follow the link and fill out the survey. Thank you.
And on this next slide, you'll see this is a way to get to the survey. We will not be shy in giving you links and access to this survey, and we're very interested in getting feedback. But whether you're new to the area or you've lived here your entire life, we hope you learned something tonight. We're constantly working to make this a safer place. And we've reached now the end of the formal presentation and can move into the question and answers. So what we're going to do for question and answers is we are going to look at the list and reply to them. We anticipate that a number of these are going to be duplicated and that some of them hopefully have been answered and you feel quite comfortable with the answers you've heard tonight. But nonetheless, we will take all of the questions that have been submitted and come up with a response. So we will have a summarized document in addition to this recording, which you can watch over and over and over again. And you will hopefully you will find the answers that you need. Megan, do I just click on sorry, this is a new format for all of us here. So let's go ahead and start with the questions. So the first one up is, what accommodation is being made for communication once power has been shut off and the cell towers do not work? During the last evacuation, we could not communicate or get communication due to the lack of electricity and cell phone reception. And we can address that. Dave Ford, would you feel comfortable addressing that?
Yes. During these power disruptions, depending on the time frame of how long power is going to be down, and you can assume that power is going to be disrupted for an X amount of time, we recommend that, you have, adequate, communication devices at your home that you can reach out and find up-to-date information, such as a radio, such as contacting your local fire department or sheriff's department to get access to information regarding evacuation and updates. Once power is de-energized, cell activity and opportunities, in most cases, you'll find that the cell companies have ancillary power that lasts up to about 4 hours. So if you've been asked to evacuate, you want to make sure that you evacuate. Don't stay in your home. If you've been asked to evacuate, that's really important. That's the key thing that you need to do to save your life, save your family, and move out of harm's way until power is restored. Because Topanga is in a peculiar area, it's difficult to maintain cell strength in the event of a fire or any other time, because of the possibility of communication companies not being able to get in to the site. And if the fire burns toward a repeater, then you're going to have even more problems. So it's better to be prepared with some of these safety kits advices that LA County has put out on a fire guide and evacuation measures to make sure you're safe and respond accordingly to law enforcement and officials.
Thank you, Dave. Do we have any other panelists that would like to address this question?
Yes, I can quickly say that there are a couple of ways that you can communicate if you lose all power. One is to back up your home system. If you go to the TSEP site, there are some strategies for doing that with batteries and whatnot. That will provide backup communication for landlines and such for a short period of time. Also, TSEP's top of the hour report. If you have an FRS radio, there's a plan in place for gaining information through that. And the program that Gene mentioned, that's not quite ready yet, but the weather alert radio is another way to get incoming communications, as well as your automobile and your AM radio to find incoming information.
Thank you, James. I'm going to go ahead and move along so we have an opportunity. Just so you know, there are 256 questions, and in 30 minutes, I sincerely doubt we'll get through all of those, but we're going to give it a try. How can we survive the intense heat of a wildfire? SIP does not seem safe without more equipment than residents possess. Chief Smith, do you want to take that one on?
I do. The key indicator to that is evacuation. And I know that this is a challenge with this shelter in place, but as I talked earlier on, it comes down to time. If we have a fire that's overwhelmingly going to impact your home, regardless if you have fire engines there in an advancing fire front, temperatures and direct flame impacting yourself are in excess of 1200 degrees. It is not survivable. That's why our stance is to evacuate. Take the order and evacuate with time. If you have to seek shelter in a shelter in place scenario, it is not to be outdoors, it's to be in your home. That gives you the safest protection under these extreme conditions. I know this is a challenging decision to make. It's a life safety decision, but I can tell you that even with all the protective gear, your firefighters are very vulnerable in those extreme conditions. And you know that there's a significant amount of fire fatalities a year with your firefighters getting overrun by fire, doing structure defense, doing life safety measures, combating a fire. And we don't want anybody hurt in this. And so you please evacuate and take orders to evacuate early.
Thank you, Chief Smith. The next question is, what is the protocol if you are not at home outside the canyon? Can you get back in to get emergency items and pets? And I think if we go to Deputy Cerveny and Captain Ford from the CHP.
Captain Ford from CHP, and most likely traffic control points will be CHP officers. And if it's in this scenario with a rapid moving fire, no, you will not be allowed past the traffic control point to enter the evacuation zone. And it does not matter what reason you give the officers. They are under very strict order. The goal here is to save as many lives as possible within the fire zone. And we have to be able to let fire equipment up and down those narrow roads. And we've heard every excuse. And unfortunately, we do have to make a decision that when the fire department says only emergency vehicles, then unfortunately only emergency vehicles can get in at that point of the fire.
And I'll alliterate the same thing as Captain Ford, whether it's a CHP officer or a deputy sheriff, if they have their orders from the Unified Command Post or their supervisors, those orders are to be followed to the letter during an event of this magnitude. So again, it sounds cold, but life preservation is number one, and allowing people in will affect the resources going in, and that will not be allowed during an event of this magnitude or any event that requires a road closure and an evacuation.
Thank you. The next question I think is going to go to the same two people. Do we really need those Topanga access cards to get back home after an evacuation or during a partial road closure, or will a government issued ID or piece of mail with your home address work?
With the Topanga access cards, as well as your driver's license or identification card that's issued by the DMV, those are the best ways when a soft opening for residents is allowed, because it shows the officer or the deputy sheriff who's at that road closure to know that you are, live in the area and you are to be allowed in. Pieces of mail are a little bit more difficult because we need to make a visual identification of who is who. You may have your address and may have your name, but we'll need an ID to go with that piece of mail. So at that point, you might as well just have your ID as it is. So either one of those cards, when the situation is deemed safe for repopulation, those are probably your two best bets to get in. So ID, Topanga access card.
And keep in mind too, that the CHP officer or the deputy sheriff that's there may be as far away from San Dimas or the Antelope Valley or Santa Barbara. So they will not be as familiar with Topanga as you are.
Thank you very much. What is the protocol if you receive an evacuation order when you're away from your property, but your pets are at home?
Okay,
Be a tough one. We might want to go to animal
I
care
can
and
answer
control for
this.
that one. Oh,
I
okay,
can-
great.
Yeah, so I've been involved with a lot of evacuations where we've had engine companies there. And when they're doing structure defense or they are within the operational area, we look at pets, we look at livestock needs. We have protected livestock. We have after the fire has gone through and we have the protective measures, we've fed them before. This is things that we do when we're in the operational area and the fire intensity has been mitigated. Our firefighters or your firefighters actively look if we hear pets, we hear barking dogs, we look at those needs, and we, when we're what you would call mopping up, fighting fire around homes or putting out hot spots, this is what we deal with. We've done pretty elaborate things with livestock in areas throughout LA County to make sure that they're attended to. So if we see something, we're going to take action on those pets if it all possible. We sure are.
Sergeant Maradiaga, did you want to add to that answer? You're muted.
Sorry about that. No, pre-planning definitely helps out. Once we respond, we do make our efforts to get those animals from those areas. But we're definitely pleading with the public is to have that plan ready. Definitely have something planned for those events.
And this is just from my perspective. I know that in Woolsey, there were some extraordinary efforts to feed animals and to bring water in and to bring food in. There's some really amazing efforts that were made by Animal Care and Control and Fire and the Sheriff's Department. So we know that, and we have evidence of where that's really happened. The next question is also for Sergeant Maradiaga. Where is the Animal Evacuation Center to the south?
To the south, so we have Pierce College. We also have Castaic Animal Care Center. Occasionally, we do open Handsome Dam, which is located in LA City, but we do have those options.
And if an equine owner is ordered to evacuate south, can they still head north to Pierce without hindering efforts?
Most definitely, yes. So Pierce College is our predominant, evacuation sheltering sites. And always, if they need assistance, they can make a request for service.
Great, thank you. I think this one goes back to law enforcement. Can evacuating residents use alternate routes to leave or avoid traffic on Topanga Canyon Boulevard?
Yes, as far as the CHP is concerned, using alternate routes is always a good idea. And where you live, you should have a very good idea of alternate routes to get home. Someday when you go to work or you're on your way home from work, take that extra 15 or 20 minutes, take an alternate route home. So it's not the first time you've taken it or the last time you took it was years ago. Take those alternate routes, be familiar with them, know several ways to get in and out of your property if you can.
And as well as Captain Ford said, area knowledge where you live is very key. In some of these narrow canyon roads, also just be careful that some roads are very narrow and you may not be the only person who knows that route. So use it if it's will get you out of the area faster. Also goes down to leaving early so you can get that timing so you don't have to fight with everybody else to get out as well. And just when you leave, just be careful when you drive and take any route that you need to do to get out of the area.
Great, thank you very much. The next one is for James Grasso from TSEP. And James, if you, while I'm talking, reading the question, if you could take a look at your text messages, please. They are asking if TSEP will provide guidance on the exact evacuation route for each zone, or is there another place where we should look for that information during a fire?
So no, TSEP does not provide that information. Fire and law enforcement makes those decisions. They push it out, but as soon as we discover that information, as we saw tonight, when they provided evacuations of zones 1, 2, and 3 to the north and zone 4, and then the additional zones when they became orders to the south. So we will push out that information, but we're not involved in creating it. That's fire and law enforcement.
James, this seems like a good moment. It's not the question, but I think it deserves some elaboration. The maps are new. And if could you just talk about that just for a moment, because some of these questions are kind of bordering on that issue.
Yes, I saw that. So yes, the maps are a little bit new. So zones 1 through 9 are the traditional zones for Topanga. Sunset Mesa, a little area, if folks don't know, is at the bottom of Topanga Canyon Boulevard, just east at PCH. That area of 500 homes is unincorporated Los Angeles. Sunset Mesa is now in a zone which is there. It's actually split into 2 zones, Zone 10 East and Zone 10 West. And so those are the 2 zones you're now seeing on the maps. They are not officially a part of Topanga, but Topanga was a template for other communities. And so additional zones are getting rolled out. Malibu is also now has zones which are 11 through 14. And you may see those from time to time or hear about them when evacuations are taking place. At some point, zones 1 through 9, the fire department is going to redraw some of the boundaries to make them more user-friendly. Instead of the old Thomas Brother lines and guides, they will be a little bit more user-friendly based on roads and geography.
Great, thank you, James. I think that's a lot of the future activity in the community. Chief Smith, I think this might be for you. What are some of the locations that might be used as an incident command post?
Okay, there I am. So for an incident command post is something of that magnitude. We are limited on what we have. When we have an incident command post that's put in place, we can muster close to 5,000 people. On the old Topanga fire, we had 7,000 people working that incident. And within an incident command post, we have only several options. One of those is King Gillette Ranch and Diamond X Ranch that's right at the intersection of Las Virgenes and Mulholland Highway. We also have Caneo Creek Park, which is off of the 23 freeway in Ventura County and Jans Road. And the other one is Freedom Park, which is in Camarillo. So it also all depends upon how many people, what kind of infrastructures we need to set up for an incident command post. But it's something of that magnitude. We're going to be there for a long time. So we have 3 options for a large incident command post. We'll always have an initial incident command post, which will be picked by the first in incident commander. And that is just built to get us up and running. And then we will have our logistics section set up, the incident command post that will take us through the end of the incident.
Thank you very much. The next question, and again, I open this up to the panelists. What do you estimate as the amount of time for residents to evacuate southward to must be PCH? How many vehicles do you estimate to be traveling on Topanga Boulevard South?
I can talk to that. So if we look at the intersection of Topanga Canyon Boulevard and Old Canyon, as it's referred to, from that point to go south, it's going to take a significant amount of time to do that. Realistically, it's also going to be dependent upon if the fire starts at night or if it starts during the day. The population changes. So if we use an average population of 12,000 within Topanga Canyon, that residency or that occupancy load could be cut in half, possibly if it's at 2 in the afternoon compared to 2 in the morning. So if with our law enforcement partners and everybody doing what they're told, efficiency is what we're striving to do. So it is going to be very challenging to say how long it's going to take to do that because it's a moving target based upon the population that's within the canyon.
Thank you. There is a kind of a similar question, and maybe this for the CHP. Can the CHP also address north exit and control at Mulholland and Topanga Canyon Boulevard?
Yes, I can address it. Is this an evacuation question or is this a traffic control point question?
Well, you know, this question comes from our good friend Susan Nisman. So we can get a more elaborate answer for her after this, because I
Sure.
can't tell from this question. It just says, can CHP also address north exit and control at Mulholland and Topanga Canyon Boulevard?
Well, if evacuation is going out that direction, yes, we're going to be taking people into Woodland Hills. Los Angeles Police Department will be notified. We're going to need some very good traffic control also on Topanga Canyon between Ventura Boulevard and Old Topanga also to keep that area wide open so we can get a lot of evacuees pushed up to the north on Topanga Canyon Boulevard past Mulholland and Old Topanga also.
Okay, and I'm gonna tack this one on to that question. How can we evacuate if our evacuation route is part of the road closure?
Well, the road closure is to keep people from coming into the evacuation route, evacuation area. You can still evacuate out through a traffic control point.
Thank you. We have a question. Can you clarify whether CERT team members or other official volunteer responders are allowed in soft closures, or would it be only during resident-only closures?
CERT team members are going to be allowed, if it's a hard closure and only fire and law enforcement, then no. But this is going to be a question it's going to take bit more of an answer, and James Grasso and I can work on this. But we consider the CERT team a very important part of Topanga, and especially during emergency activities. So James Grasso and I are going to spend more time on this question later, and it's very likely that CERT teams will be allowed in.
We'll go ahead and include that when we compile the question and answer section that we have ready for distribution after this meeting. Thank you. We do have a few more evacuation questions. We have a lot of evacuation questions actually. Are there? I'm gonna read these three and let's see if we can kind of loop them together. Are there any plans to protect the lives of people who may need to shelter in places like the community house, Topanga Park parking, or the Topanga Center? And how long is it estimated to fully evacuate Topanga? And then, let's just those two for now.
Well, I can take that. So once again, it's going to be challenging to know how long it's going to take to evacuate Topanga based upon where the fire starts, how long it's going to impact certain zones within there, and also the time of day. So I feel that I cannot give a valid answer on that because it's going to depend on the fire itself, because not every fire is treated the same. And this fire, giving this worst case scenario, which we rolled out, we know that we're going to have significant impacts. As far as we stated in the presentation that I talked to, that if we know that we had people sheltered in place, we know that we have a life safety component that we need to deal with. And we're going to do everything that we can with our air assets, meaning our helicopter and fixed wing aircraft and or our engine companies, to get to those areas for that public safety component where we know that people are sheltered in place. If we call that order of shelter in place, we know what zones we put people in a shelter in place order in. So it's going to be our priority to get resources there for the public safety need.
Great, thank you very much. There's a request to repeat the West Valley road closure site. Captain Ford?
For the West Valley road closure site for CHP, it's going.
Oh, I'm sorry, you dropped out.
Where the fire is. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're a little wiggly, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to depend on where the fire is and what direction is best for evacuation. But as far as traffic control points, on the south end is most likely going to be PCH in Topanga, and on the north end, right around Mulholland and Topanga, or maybe even push that up inside Woodland Hills a little bit more.
Great, thank you. Early on, you indicated that Zone 5 should evacuate to Woodland Hills via Topanga Canyon Boulevard. It looks to me that we in Zone 5 should at this point go out Old Topanga to Woodland Hills. I think they're just looking
again,
for...
that's going to depend on on how much traffic is already on Topanga Canyon northbound. If Old Topanga is a better option, that's one of the reasons it's a really good idea to have your Twitter account tuned into those Twitter feeds that Megan went through earlier, so you get the most up-to-date information on where to evacuate, or stay in touch on the AM radio and listen to the most up-to-date information.
Thank you. Chief Smith, I think this next one is for you. Where's the information on sheltering in place available?
The information on shelter in place we will have available. I believe Megan is going to make that available for us, and we have also can add it into the new publications with the Topanga Survival Guide, and those resources all available. So we will make them available, as Megan stated earlier. We'll make them available.
Yeah, we're currently working on a fact sheet and working with TSEP and trying to update all of the materials. So that will be available soon.
Thank you. After fire and evacuation, what measures are in place to protect homes from non-residents who might take advantage of empty homes in order to loot, etc.? I think that should go to the Sheriff's Department.
Absolutely. During an event like this, we call for what's called mutual aid, which we said in the presentation is when this station will call from every station we have to send additional units and additional resources to us. And one of the reasons we call for mutual aid is what's called looter suppression. And when a fire front goes through an area, we will actually send units behind where the fire has already gone through to patrol those areas to ensure that that kind of activity doesn't happen. I've actually personally been on a looter suppression detail during other fires, and that is one of our many reasons we call for additional units. And that can happen from this station, Lancaster Station, San Dimas. We all work together for the exact same reason. So that is, we will send several units in those areas just to suppress and check out anybody who might be in that area to make sure they're not going to do that.
Thank you. When evacuation was initially announced, zones 1, 2, 3, and 5 were to evacuate north to the valley. When I heard Chief Smith announce that all zones were to evacuate, I heard all zones evacuate south to PCH. At the same time on TSEP, the alert said all zones were to evacuate zones 1, 2, and 3 to the north and zones 4 to 10 to the south. I'm not sure if I misheard Chief Smith, but this did create confusion for me, especially if the direction change, north originally, then south later, that points to the that needs to be reemphasized. I am in zone 2. James or Chief Smith,
I can talk that. So with the script that we were trying to roll that out with the initials that we did, that we were having the evacuation zones go to the north and then to the south. So that was a misspeak on me. You will be given direction on an incident and where to go, and that will be clear. And in the fact sheets that we did have that we had zones 1, 2, and 3 were to evacuate north to Woodland Hills and Topanga Canyon Boulevard, and zone 4 was to evacuate south in Topanga. And I did state later, meaning that all zones were now evacuated, and I meant guess I should have relayed better that the remaining zones were to evacuate south to Pacific Coast Highway.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to cause confusion.
This question is, what station is the AM radio supposed to be on? And I'm going to presume that's just, is it the 1070, Megan? Is that the what station is the AM radio supposed to be on?
The one that we were recommending was KNX 1070, but there are multiple stations that cover the LA area, but KNX 1070 is a good one.
Okay. And then I do want to emphasize that when we are able to use the NOAA radio system, that will not be an AM station. That's going to be a weather band. So just so, and we'll have that information available. Yes.
And I
Jim.
just also wanted to add that KNX showed an interest and met with TSEP and a few other folks at their headquarters for just this purpose, and that they've been very receptive to paying attention and pushing out information for us during these incidents.
Great, thank you. We do have a question. What about a siren warning system? When the power goes out, we have no communication source. Our phone service is based on the internet. Cell towers don't reach us. Even my battery powered radio has difficulty picking up stations. Has a siren warning system been considered? If you don't mind, I think I'll take the first shot at this one. Yes, we have looked at it rather extensively. It's a big undertaking that takes a lot of years, and it takes a lot of study and a lot of you know, permitting. It's a very complex system. We actually feel that the NOAA radios are a far better way to have an alert that you can hear that's inside your home, not muffled by your, double paned windows and all of that. So a weather radio should have better coverage. You do have an excellent point also about where you are and where you can get reception. And that is something that during our test and as we expand into this system of alert and warning, we will be spending more attention and trying to figure out how we might boost signals in certain areas. I mean, valleys and mountains are notoriously tough to get signal strength in some areas. So that is part of the effort to roll these out. But a siren system right now is actually just a more lengthy undertaking, and it actually all reports are it's much more difficult to be effective when the topography of the area is put into the mix. So actually having your own personal siren rather than one in the neighborhood is what we're doing right now, but we continue to study sirens as a solution for parts of Los Angeles County, not just Topanga Canyon.
Can I
I don't know.
quickly
Yeah,
comment
go
on
ahead,
the,
James.
yeah, so we did a little preliminary work on the NOAA radios early on. And just so folks know, that radio sits in your house sleeping. And there's special tones that are designed for fire, that it's a pilot program that is meant to be coming soon. And that radio sits in your home on quietly until it receives the tones that's saying there's a fire and an alert. And then it wakes up and it provides that information. The coverage for that is different than regular AM radio. NOAA currently has a weather radio system in place with lots of transmitters around. And if you want to get an idea of what it might be like at your house, if you have access to one of those radios and you can put on the weather broadcast, turn it on and see if you get it. Usually there's 2 or 3 channels and the coverage is not perfect, but you'd be surprised at the penetration. I believe they have 2 transmitters in Malibu and the penetration is pretty good for them.
Thank you very much. The next question is for Animal Care and Control. Does the Animal Evacuation Center information on the incident update adapt if the designated location becomes overwhelmed over time? You're on mute.
No, that's a really good question. So what we do is that we do stay in communication with sheriffs, and if we are overwhelmed or we need to change our sheltering sites, we stay in communication. That way they can delegate that information.
Great. And I can tell you from the perspective of the Emergency Operations Center, as soon as Animal Care and Control tells us that that issue is that they're becoming overloaded, then they need to open additional sites. We will put that on our Twitter accounts, and we will promote the press releases and let the media know to make sure that that information gets out far and wide. It's not an unusual situation. It certainly has happened before. Okay, we have a few questions, a lot of questions about getting to the survey. And so the survey, you will be getting this information. I promise you, we will make sure you have the link.
And Jean, I will also drop the link to the survey in the chat right now in case anyone wants it, but we will also send it out after the fact.
Okay, great.
You can also go to tsep.org and it's on the home page.
Great. What zone is Malibu Sunset Mesa in? That is zone 10. Malibu has another set of zones that go 11 through 14, but the unincorporated portion in Sunset Mesa is zone 10. It is east and west, just so we can determine the difference between one side of Topanga Canyon Boulevard and the other, but that is zone 10. And we have some brush clearance issues. We have some more pet questions. If people are outside, I think we answered this. This has to do with taking care of animals and how we respond to that. So I think we'll address that when we answer all the questions in the post presentation mode. We only have about a minute left. Let me see if we have an area that or a question that hasn't yet been asked. A lot of pets, cell reception. the large animal, the haulers are not allowed. I think we've kind of covered that, but did you want to address that in more detail, Sergeant Martiaga?
No worries,
Sorry.
no worries, no worries.
So the
So,
question is, if haulers are not allowed into the canyon through the roadblocks, during the last fire, there were no cars on TCP, yet I had to call the supervisor so he could get to allow the haulers into the canyon to help us evacuate.
no, definitely, really good question. I think our main objective is the safety of the staff and ways to retrieve those pets. Is it safe to retrieve those pets from those areas? So we stay in communication with fire, the sheriff's department, CHP, to see how we can execute that. So safety is paramount when it comes to those. So we stay in communication that way if we can to see if we are able to execute that.
Great. We do have a question asking about the evacuation sites, and they asked if Palisades High School was available. Yeah, when you see the full transcripts of the exercise, apparently you missed the beginning. You'll see that on the incident report that Chief Smith was using, Palisades and Taft were the two locations for the shelters.
Jean, I have one question that came up in the chat that I think is important that Chief Smith
Okay.
might want to address. Is if there's a fire during school hours, how will the children be evacuated? From Topanga Elementary, I'm assuming.
Okay, so we have that. So we know that during school hours, we may have children in there. We've also made it a priority that Topanga school may be put in a shelter-in-place position with engine companies going to Topanga school to provide the protection for the school. So I know that there has been talk, and what parents have done through the communications I have, knowing that we've had, red flag days, they have treated a red flag day is what I'll call a snow day, where they opted not to put their children in red flag days, just for that safety mind, because I know that it can be very challenging to know that we have a fire and we have children at Topanga Elementary. So we have Topanga Elementary, as we know, is one of those priority places within Topanga that we may have in high occupancy, those being the children and our students and faculty that's there. And we are going to send engine companies and resources there because of the life safety component that we have at that school. That is a tough one, it really is. But we know that we're going to have people there because it's going to be challenging for parents to know that they have a fire, they're under an evacuation order to get to the school, pick up their child. And that's why a lot of the parents that I've talked to in different meetings that we've had have opted to take what I'll use generically as a snow day for their children. So they don't have to worry about that.
They clarified that they meant there's preschools and Montessori schools and other Manzanita, other schools involved. So pretty much the same answer for all of those, you would say, right?
Correct. We know where our schools are in the Topanga Canyon area in Cali Camp. We know where they are, and we know that we're going to look at what time it is and what the potential is for those students and faculty to be at those locations. That's a tough one.
Yeah. We do need to end the question and answer period. We are a little bit going over here. There are additional questions here. A number of them are repetition. And so we will go ahead and summarize all these questions with answers. If your question did not get answered tonight, we promise you we will get you an answer. We will put this all together, refer you to a few other places. I do want to say, however, and I know we didn't use it as part of this exercise, but we didn't talk about wireless emergency alerts. And I do want to make you aware that beyond the Alert LA County, wireless emergency alerts are another tool that we would use in order to notify or send out notices in an imminent event. I mean, we use it sparingly, but when it's important, it's a fabulous tool. And so it won't be the only way. It's important to remember that our attitude about alerts and warning is the more modalities, the better. And that way, if we miss you one way, we can catch you another way. So I did want to make sure and say that because it was something that we didn't include in this drill.
And if folks don't know, that's the Amber Alert system. Similar to
Um,
Amber Alerts.
So I'd like to go ahead and open this up for the panel for final comments. If you have any final comments that you'd like to get in to address some of the questions that you've heard or some of the feedback that we're getting, this is your moment.
Drew Smith, LA County Fire Division 7, Assistant Fire Chief. I'd just like to thank everybody who participated. I'd like to thank our subject matter experts that were here as part of this panel. And just so everybody out there knows that we are taking this very seriously and we want to do the best for the life safety component of our citizens. That's why you're here and that's why we're here, because this is of paramount to us. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation tonight. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you soon.
And this will all be made available for everyone to review after. So keep an eye out.
Take the survey.
Thank you, everyone.